There are a bunch of reasons to get lens adapters. Maybe you want to use some vintage glass on your new camera body, or maybe you want to use different lenses across two different camera systems that you use. So in any of those cases, you have a choice. Are you going to dish out for a really expensive lens adapter or converter? Or will you stick with a converter that is more fairly priced? In my hand I have a $15 lens converter and a $100 lens converter for a Leica M lens to a Sony E mount body. At first glance, you might honestly not be able to tell much of a difference between these two. They're both fully made of metal and they weigh similar amounts, and honestly they look very similar. Only when you take a closer look will you see some minor differences, but not enough to justify the price difference between these two. Let's talk about that. In my hands are the $15 and $100 lens converters that I purchased. This one is from Fotasy and this one is from Metabones. I'm going to talk about image quality and how it makes videos look when you use these, but first up, I'm going to talk about the actual build quality and differences that I see between these two converters. Honestly, when we look at them, you don't really see much of a difference, at least at a glance. They're both fully made of metal, they weigh pretty similar amounts, although the Metabones is slightly denser. The only differences that I see between these two converters are, one, on the Metabones lens adapter, you will see this black light blocking felt that they have on the inside. It's a nice touch. It also catches some dust if it might be hovering around there. However, I don't think it warrants that $85 difference. Another difference you'll see is that on the Fotasy adapter, you just have this single piece of black painted aluminum, while on the Metabones adapter you have something that reminds me more of what you'd see on an actual lens. This is just a silver aluminum on the back here that's actually been screwed onto the lens adapter. Last but not least, but this is a very small touch, is that on the Metabones adapter, the locking mechanism for the lens is actually made out of plastic, while on the Fotasy adapter it's actually a silver metal button. Some might argue that the metal button might be a little bit more durable. I'd say that probably doesn't really make much of a difference. Besides that, they really aren't different. It's not like the Fotasy adapter feels cheap or anything. Honestly, it feels pretty high quality. Now let's actually talk about using these adapters. And maybe you'll be surprised to hear this, maybe you won't be, but the $100 lens adapter is actually more painful to use. The tolerances on this adapter are so tight that when I'm putting it on my Sony camera, it feels like it's scratching away at the actual body mount. Meanwhile, the Fotasy adapter actually slides on more like you'd find with a regular lens that has its tolerance as well made for the actual camera body. Putting the lens on both of these adapters honestly feels about the same. It's still pretty tight. Taking the lenses off of these adapters is like, you don't want to hurt the lens, so you're trying to be gentle, but you also like need to actually turn it and you have to put some force into it. It's not the most pleasant experience on either of these, honestly. So with that out of the way, let's talk about actual image quality. Oh yeah, and it's probably worth mentioning this. The camera that I'm using is a Sony A7R IV, and the lens that I'm using is the Voigtlander 35mm Nocton f1.4. Which, by the way, if you want to see the review about this when it comes out, be sure to subscribe because it'll be coming out pretty soon. Okay, so now let's talk about image and video quality. I have two videos, one which I recorded of a metro entrance and one which I recorded of a tree. The tree one I wanted to see if there were any differences in sharpness that we could see. I can't tell a difference. If you can, then let me know down in the comments, but honestly, these videos look exactly the same to me. Now, I can say the same thing for the metro entrance video. I wanted to see if light would affect this, if the felt was actually doing anything noticeable that the lack of the felt in the Fotasy adapter was not making up for, but as you can see, there's just nothing that we have to worry about here anyways. Now, I also took a couple of images, one which was of myself, and I did miss the focus a little bit, but mostly I just wanted to see if there was any other differences or if there was some vignetting that caused by the actual lens, but maybe by the converter. I can't see anything. And then I also took one of this wooden panel here. I also did miss the focus there a bit too. The last image is of this building. I set the focus to infinity for this image as well, and I mean, they look exactly the same to me. The sharpness is great across both images, and the fact that they're both great is a win for the Fotasy adapter, because I mean, if someone were to point out these two images to you and ask for a difference, I don't think I could find one. With the minimal amount of differences that we see in build quality and the zero difference that I see in the image quality, there's just no way that I can recommend the Metabones lens adapter. It's just overpriced for what it's doing, and the Fotasy adapter does exactly the same thing, just without some felt. That $85 difference is not noticeable in any way when I'm using this adapter. Now, this isn't to say that every single lens adapter is made equally. For some lens adapters, you have restrictions on minimum focusing and infinity focusing, and that is why you might have to pay extra for a lens adapter that can do that. Some adapters, you have a piece of glass in the actual adapter itself. For those, I totally understand that you might need to pay a little bit extra. In any of those cases though, I would recommend reading the reviews, maybe checking out a range of products from, you know, the minimum price that you're willing to pay for to the maximum price you're willing to pay for an adapter, and see across those products what people say about it. If you find that, you know, a $50 converter is able to do the same thing that a $100 converter can, but the $15 can't, then you can go for the $50 in that case. In this case, we have a $15 lens adapter that does the same exact thing that a $100 converter does. And because of that, there's just no reason that you need to get that $100 lens converter. I really hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. If you have any recommendations for things that I could do to improve my videos, let me know down in the comments below. And if you have any questions about any of the photography stuff that I'm doing, let me know down in the comments as well. And I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Peace.